What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the fourth album by rock band Underoath. Basically, this project is called They're Only Chasing Safety, and it came out in the late spring of 2004. Now, I'm kind of familiar with Underoath. I remember them from back in the day, and I kind of have an affinity for like 2000s era rock albums. So I would have to say I wanted to check this one out. This is one that I haven't checked out yet. So I wanted to get to Underoath. I remember trying to mess with them in 2018. I was getting ready to review their album from 2018 back in 2018, but I never got around to it because I kind of took that year off. But I wanted to get back into this. I wanted to get back to reviewing Underoath. So this is a particularly kind of hit album. Their popularity Underoath's popularity is kind of here and there. Sometimes they chart, other times they don't. So I wanted to kind of get to one of the times where they did to kind of get some of their hits. This is kind of one of their bigger albums, if not one of their biggest. I would have to say this is definitely a good hit album here. It has some good stuff on here, and they kind of have some screamo stuff. I like their vocalist Spencer Chamberlain on this particular project. I don't know how many albums he was with them, but he definitely had a hit vibe on this particular one. Just worked pretty well. So there's a number of singles on here, just actually two. But this is actually kind of a brief album. But I do like the concept of the compactness of it. This is just really like a screamo meets kind of punk music type album as far as that kind of happens, where it has like the punk kind of hooks and choruses with like the screamo kind of vocals and like the verses and bridges and some stuff like that. Definitely kind of gives off this album definitely kind of gives off like an emo vibe as far as it kind of happens, but it's just kind of in like a post-hardcore kind of sense. So it's just different. It's not like your typical kind of Blink 182 and like Blood on the Dance Floor and folks like that. Can't really think of too many folks right now as far as that kind of happens, but just like Good Charlotte kind of vibes. Just something that kind of reminds me of Good Charlotte and like the choruses as far as that kind of happens, but then with like some screamo pitches as far as like, oh, if you had talked to me like a month ago, I'd probably be able to name some of the ones like they were off of like the Punk Goes Pop Attack Attack. Like they have like kind of the screamo type vibes of Attack Attack and folks like that. Can't really think of a ton of screamo artists right now, but I would have to say this has some pretty good. I would have to say this album has some pretty good vibes in like a screamo sense, and this is pretty good highlight. I just would have to say overall this has got some compactful type stuff. It definitely could have used more singles. I just think the concept of them, like I was saying, with their kind of thing with their various kind of chart appeal, I'd have to say that they could definitely use more room to kind of get higher up on the charts. I know that they're kind of here and there, but I like the concept of seeing them just because they're kind of low key for like rock artists. But I like the concept of just the stuff that they did. So some good stuff. They're on the Warp Tour and stuff like that, so it's interesting kind of get some of that. This is another good band in that sort of sense. So yeah, there were two singles on this particular album. Wikipedia only lists that there was one, but I'm going to say that there was two because one of which it was kind of like a bonus hit that had a music video towards it. So the first single is Reinventing Your Exit, and this is kind of like a bleary kind of evening malaise of a song, I would have to say. It's basically some screamo makeshift that works well. Definitely feel like the vibe of it works pretty damn well. It's just a good hit for like some emo. This is just a good hit single, I would have to say, and it's just good for some emo haze. So I definitely feel like this is just an overall nice one that kind of works pretty well. This is just good for some great evening. This is definitely some good evening makeshift as far as that kind of happens. Just some good kind of evening, kind of just got done with work, just got done with class and stuff like that. Just kind of the malaise and just like the orange skies, stuff like that, sunset type music as far as that kind of happens. Just getting ready to go out and step out a bit, pick up some beers, hit up like a night venue, something of that assortment. Just really the screamo kind of vibes in this particular song. All the singles really hit pretty heavily, I would have to say, but it's just got some good vibes on here to kind of have in that sense. So it's kind of punk meets screamo as far as that kind of happens, like Attack Attack meets like Good Charlotte, something in that sort of sense as far as that kind of happens. But this just has a real kind of hazy, kind of bleary, kind of evening malaise just for winding down, but then kind of not winding down. I kind of feel like it kind of is good to be done with the, like your tasks and that type of stuff. It's also good to kind of get ready to loosen up a bit and get ready to step out a bit. So it's a good concept as far as that kind of goes, reinventing your exit. And then the second single, which I basically consider the single, is it's dangerous business walking out your front door. So this is definitely kind of a glitzy kind of house party night out flash. I would have to say it's got a hazy pace and it reminds me of like the Killer's second single, Somebody Told Me. So it's just a nice kind of boppish nightclub song in like a rock sense and a screamo sense, I'd have to say. Really has like a very beautiful bridge at like the end of the song that just kind of has like a gothic kind of ghoulish choir on the song that just really hits pretty heavily. There definitely need to be more rock bands that do that sort of thing because that's just really effectual. This works pretty damn well. And then this is just an overall kind of glitzy kind of house party type bop or just night out flash. This really has that kind of evening pizzazz of just like this one is kind of more at the venue and just kind of more in like a kickback, kind of have some beers, kind of hazes. It's dangerous business. Is this kind of one like a kickback, kind of have some beers, kind of haze as far as that kind of happens. Definitely something for the night venue as far as that kind of goes. But I just look after it's just different from reinventing your exit because that one's just kind of in the car traverse of getting there. But this one's kind of more of being there and just the schmoozing and kind of lounging as far as that kind of happens. So it's just a nice one. And then there's also another single that's kind of one There's kind of a song that's kind of promoted as a single. This is the most popular song on Spotify. I guess I could kind of pseudo count that one. It's basically a boy brushed red living in black and white. So that's kind of, this has like the emo pitch of having lengthy song titles. I do like the concept of it, but I would say a boy brushed red is basically like a thing's getting ready to happen kind of evening pizzazz. Definitely, this has just got some screamo vibes, and it's kind of screamo vibes meets punk. This song is kind of screamo vibes meets punk backdrop, I would have to say. So it's just an overall good concept. This really kind of has that riveting kind of good Charlotte type feel in the verses as far as that kind of happens. Just a real kind of punk edginess, but then it switches to like screamo vibes and like the chorus and that type of stuff as far as that kind of happens. This has a lot of good energy. This is a real kind of manic one. I do like some of these. This kind of, I like the kind of punk edge that this particular album kind of has, because sometimes you want that good Charlotte kind of feel, just like the punk commercial type feel as far as that kind of goes, but then you want something with a little bit more manic energy just to kind of cut loose to and kind of get crunk and that type of stuff. So it's just a good concept getting these. All three of the singles hit pretty heavily, I'd have to say. They just have some real good pitch as far as that kind of happens. Just a lot of good manic energy just for really cutting loose and have some of that kind of screamo edge. So I definitely like the concept. They're a little bit more melodic than Attack Attack from what I remember. This would have to say I definitely like the screamo type pitch, but I do like it when it's commercial enough to kind of have some chart appeal as far as that kind of happens. So some good stuff. So to talk about the songs I recommend out of 10 on here, I'm reviewing the 10 song version because that's the version that's on Spotify, and I'd have to say out of 10 songs I wound up recommending to you 6. So I'm not going to count the Blue Note instrumental. That was just kind of a poor instrumental that wasn't really that riveting, I would have to say. But to talk about the 6 songs I recommend, we'll go ahead and get to these. So they would be Reinventing Your Exit, It's Dangerous Business Walking Out Your Front Door, A Boy Brushed Red Living in Black and White, I'm Content with Losing, The Impact of Reason, and Down Set Go. So some of these, like to talk about another hit song, I definitely feel like I'm Content with Losing is another highlight. This is definitely kind of a hazy kind of evening makeshift song, I would have to say. It's just got a punk edge and like a moody kind of autumn glaze. The song just has like a punk edge and like a moody kind of autumn glaze, I would have to say, and it's just kind of a hazy Travers cut overall, I would have to say. So this is kind of another one that's very similar to Reinventing Your Exit. This that same kind of bleary kind of makeshift Travers and just like an evening sense. Both of these are pretty good ones to kind of have. These are just very good moody kind of emo songs to kind of have in that sort of pitch. They just work extremely well and just have that kind of correct kind of haze and just overall glaze feeling that just works pretty damn well. And then I would have to say, like the Impact of Reason's another kind of night venue hit. I definitely like this one. This is a night venue kind of screamo hit, definitely. It's got the song has lots of rave energy and it's just mosh ready and it's just got some exhilarating kind of vibe. So this is one to kind of pair up with like It's Dangerous Business Walking Out Your Front Door. It's another one for kind of like a glitzy kind of night out flash as far as that kind of happens. This one's a little bit more manic and definitely a lot more screamo. I definitely feel like the Impact of Reason is definitely like a pretty, this one's just like screamo damn near throughout the whole song, I would have to say. So it's just a good concept to kind of get that one. Definitely a pretty relatively good mosh kind of song as far as that kind of happens. Just a good one to kind of cut loose to. It's definitely a good pair up with It's Dangerous Business song, I'd have to say. It's just another kind of highlight for that as far as that kind of happens. So I'd have to say it's just another nice one. And then Down Set Go is kind of another Travers tune. So this is kind of another hit song. Definitely like the appeal of this one. This is just kind of a manic, kind of jubilant energy and good Travers cut, I would have to say. It's definitely some evening haze. This song is definitely some evening haze for like some pleasant outings. I would just say it's an overall vibe. So this is a pretty good highlight as far as this one kind of happens. This is kind of one for kind of stepping out and just kind of getting towards the place where you're getting ready to go to. This one's just a little bit peppier than Reinventing Your Exit. Not quite as malaise, not quite as makeshift, but just a good one for getting ready to get to like a shindig, house party, something like that, night venue, something of that sort. Just kind of in like the, I mean, it's still kind of, it has like that hazy kind of energy, definitely, but it's just kind of a better, I definitely like the riffs on this particular song, just the overall energy about it. It's just a manic kind of jubilant one that just works pretty well. This has a good pep about it, but it's just kind of more in like a more kind of jovial kind of sense, I'd have to say. This one's a little bit more recreational, so I definitely like the concept of that. So to talk about some of the songs I didn't recommend on this particular project, one of which was Some Will Seek Forgiveness, Others Escape. This is kind of like a down-tempo type song and just an overall kind of mellow and homely type one that just didn't really fit that well. I mean, for the most part, when they have this kind of screamo and kind of manic energy, I just felt like them trying to detract from that and kind of have like a different kind of, I feel like them trying to have like a different aspect as far as trying something different just didn't quite work as well. It's not like I don't want to see them try some different stuff as far as that kind of happens, but I just feel like that was not a sweet spot for them as far as them trying to do that. Song number 10 just didn't really work that well. And then like I don't feel very receptive today. It was kind of similar to the Impact of Reason, but it just didn't quite hit as heavily as that particular one. Just didn't quite nail it quite as well. I feel like the energy was just not quite as compelling, and just overall catchy as far as that kind of happened. And then Young and Aspiring was just kind of one that was just overall messy, one that just didn't quite have the arrangements as far as what I was kind of looking for. That one was just kind of a kind of all over the place type one. It just didn't have like the riffage on Young and Aspiring was just not quite as compelling, and overall it just kind of felt a lot more just kind of out of sorts and just not quite as synchronized as what it probably needed to for my taste as far as that kind of happens. So that's just kind of the one. But the thing about it is me basically recommending 6 songs out of 9 on here. That's 2/3 of the album, not counting the instrumental. So I just would have to say that's actually pretty compelling. It's actually a good assortment of stuff. It's just a very brief album as far as that kind of happens, I would have to say, but it does have some good concepts. I definitely like the manic kind of evening bass, hazy kind of energy, and I like the fact that some of this is makeshift, is some good kind of malaise for just like day to day, weekday and weekend type stuff, just in like a more evening pitch and just kind of stepping out type fare as far as that kind of happens. So I like the energy behind it. So I'm going to go ahead and score this album, me recommending 6 songs out of 9. I'm going to go ahead and give this album like a 7.75 out of 10. I feel like that's pretty damn good. It's definitely a good pitch to kind of have with that. If there had been a few more songs, I probably would have recommended more, but I didn't review the deluxe edition, so I'd have to say that's kind of the thing about that. But the social score, I'm going to give this social score like an 8.25 out of 10. I definitely feel like there's a lot of compellingness on this particular project, and I definitely think the screamo energy just works pretty heavily. They have a lot of night out type fare as far as that kind of happens. I definitely like the appeal of this particular project. It's a pretty popular one to kind of have. I do feel like the promotion was kind of minimal as far as that kind of happens, and it has some commercial bite, but I just kind of feel like it's more low key and it's not like overly vivid in terms of its popularity. But I would say it's got some good stuff, definitely for some outings and social kind of fare and makeshift stuff. So it's just got some good appeal. I definitely feel like it's more thrilling than it isn't. So I definitely feel like the thrilling type vibes on here are pretty strong. So I would say 8.25 social. In terms of the future, Under Oath has put out some recent projects. So I'm going to have to get to some more of these. This is the one I'm most familiar with, but I'm going to have to see some more of them. I might eventually get to their 2018 album and more stuff like that. But this is definitely pretty compelling. I would definitely have to say this is a pretty compelling project here, and it's definitely worth a look and looking into as far as some of this stuff for some social fairs.